Well, g'day internet and welcome to another editing session. Captured this the other day. It's just a nice little sunset style photo. Going to play with potentially doing a bit of a focal length blend to use the cloud from this one with the foreground from this one. Just gives a bit more impact to the overall scene on the shot, I think. Anyway, that's what I like to do, have a play, see what we can do. So what I'll do is I'll edit this photo for the foreground and then the other one for the sky. So let's have a look here. I'm not going to change much in the way of white balance, but I am going to bring that exposure up. I'm only looking at the foreground here, remember. Let's do a little bit of contrast. I'll lift those shadows a little bit more. And I will go over to colour and warm that up a touch, because there was plenty of colour coming through in that sky. I think that looks pretty nice as a starting point. I will enable DeepPRIME 3 noise reduction, always worth doing just to get the real beautiful fine detail showing, and I'll zoom in and check. Yeah. Looks fantastic, so no noise there. Alright, let's hop to the sky exposure. Now the highlights are getting up there, not quite blown out yet. I'll put the noise reduction on while I'm on this screen. And I'm going to pull the highlights down just so it shows more detail. Bring that exposure back up a touch. A little sort of balancing act here. Put some contrast into it, and I'll play with I'll turn the micro contrast off, but I'll play with the fine contrast slider here. That's really good for bringing out detail in clouds. And that is looking quite nice. Over to colour. Definitely want to warm that up, just as we did with the other one. I will boost the colours with Nik Collection. And then don't know if I want to do any vibrance or saturation here. But it's looking good, nice and clean. Alright, so now I'll load these into Affinity Photo and stack them as layers. So I'll select both images, right click, export to application. Got Affinity Photo selected and hit export. And we'll come back when they're loaded. Okay, we're here in Affinity Photo. What I'm going to do is just click on the second image that's loaded here. Control A to select all, Control C to copy. I use Windows, so use the Command key instead of Control if you use a Mac. Select the first image and Control V to paste. Now I've got both images as layers. Close. Down the second one, we don't need that anymore, and so we've got our two layers here. So what I'm going to start with is just to see what's possible with doing this focal length blend. I'm going to drop the opacity of the top layer down just so I can see where it is, and then hit V for the move tool, and I'm just going to move this layer around just to see. I think that if I bring the foreground right about there, I think that's going to work. What we'll do is, this is all having a play. All right, I'm going to stick a mask onto this layer, grab a brush, increase the size using the square bracket keys. You can also use the section up there. And by painting black, I'm going to reveal the bottom layer through. I'll just put it on 100% here, and we're just going to paint in the sky. Now, you do have to watch it when you get to the horizon. I'm just going to do a rough kind of blend just to see how this looks. And I'll start painting some of that foreground back in. And then I'm going to switch to white by hitting the X key, reduce my brush size, hit 5 on the keyboard to get to 50%, to start feathering along the foreground here, to just bring that blend together. If I zoom in, it's done a pretty nice blend. Can't tell where one starts and one finishes. Very nice. So hit Control-0 to zoom back out. And that's my kind of focal length blend. So I've got that wide angle from the foreground, but I've got that beautiful sky. And I like doing this. I'll be honest, I don't use this technique a lot. I felt for this image though, I really wanted the emphasis of that beautiful storm cloud that was trying to form with the sunset light on it. I really wanted to bring emphasis to it, but keep that nice leading foreground into it. And the only way to do that was by using this focal length blending kind of process. Now I'm going to hit Control-Alt-Shift-E to merge everything into a new layer. Let's step over into Nik Collection and Nik Color Effects and see what we can do for some final polishing up here. Going to start with Pro Contrast. I always check remove color cast to see if there is a cast there. I don't feel like there is. I quite like the colors as they are, so I'm not going to play with that. Dynamic contrast. I like what it's doing for the foreground. Maybe not so much for the sky yet. What I'm going to do is just turn that filter off for now and try tonal contrast. And I'm focusing more just on the clouds with this filter. So I'm going to zero out all the values in this filter and start one by one. So highlights is going to blow the highlights. So I don't want anything from that. Midtones will bring out the most contrast in the cloud. I think just a minor amount of contrast there is good. Shadows will really affect more the foreground, I think. Yeah. All right. And then going to go with fine for the contrast type. It's going to not be so harsh with the adjustment. Finally, I only want this to work on the sky. So I will just do a simple polygon selection just around the sky. Click back to my start to join it up. And that way this filter is only affecting the clouds and not the foreground. Let's get some color back into it. So we'll go to Brilliance and Warmth. We'll increase the saturation, get some beautiful color back into that sky. I might have to separate what I'm doing on the ground. And it was at sunset, so we're definitely going to warm that up a bit as well. Once again, I'm going to do a polygon selection, I think. Just really simple. Get those colors in the clouds. Yep, that looks good. Ground is okay. I will play with that, I think, just with layers, and I've got another trick with a bit of lighting as well. Let's have a look here. I want to do a bit of a vignette, just bring the emphasis back into the middle. Shape, going with shape number 2 is just always my favorite. I'll brighten the center just a little bit because obviously that's the focal point. Borders, we will darken down a bit just to bring attention back to there. Now if I check my histogram, my shadows and highlights are almost clipping. So I'll just go back up to the tonal contrast filter And I'll pull the highlights on that back a little bit and lift the shadows on that just a little bit. So it doesn't matter which filter you use. If it's got a highlights and shadows slider, you can use that for the overall adjustment, which is quite nice. I think that's it for here. I'm going to apply that. Go back into Affinity. Now what I want to do here is give a little bit of emphasis pop to the foreground to mirror what is happening in the sky. Okay, so I think what I want to do is give a little bit more pop to this foreground. This is a technique I do like to use. I'm just going to reset my foreground color to white. Close. I'm going to create a new layer, so go layer, new layer, and then grab my brush tool, so B for brush, and anywhere here I'm just going to click once and just make a white foreground. I'm going to just switch back to the zoom tool just so I'm not constantly seeing a white icon. Okay, so now I'm just going to transform this layer. I'm going to hit V to select the move tool, and then I am just going to basically stretch this out. This will all make sense. This is why I zoomed out, so I can kind of stretch past, reduce it down a little bit. Now the trick here is to change the blend mode to overlay, and instantly you can see this is like a lighting effect on the foreground. It's super cool. I love using this effect. Obviously it's way too strong now. Just want to have it coming in, and then just simply reduce the opacity to a nice level that balances with the sky. I think something about that, and just showing you what kind of highlight that gives to the photo. I love it. If I hit the V tool, I can play with how much it kind of leads into the background. Yeah, I really like that. I'm just going to bring it down just a touch. That's cool. That's very cool. All right, so Control 0 to focus it, to zoom it back to a full screen. I'm going to hit Control Alt Shift E again just to make a new fully blended pixel layer. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is sharpen the image, filters, plugins, Topaz Sharpen AI. You can use Photo AI or any of the newer ones. I just like the way that this older version works. Fortunately, I don't think you can buy it directly anymore. You just got to get Photo AI either way. Now, let's just have a look and see what the defaults come up. Yeah, that's really sharpened everything up beautifully. All right, I'm just going to apply that and go back into Affinity. Okay, we're back in Affinity. Okay, I still think I need a bit more boost in this sky. It's looking good, but I think it could be even better. I like things colourful. So I'm just going to go to the adjustment list here and select Vibrance. Drag this up, give it a bit of punch. It's quite subtle, but it's just bringing a bit more yellow and orange into that cloud. It's giving a little bit more punch into the ground as well. Touch more saturation. I'll put a mask on that with a graduate. I might use a brush just at 20%. Switch to black and just reduce down the effect it gave on the foreground, just so it's not too overly saturated. Sky looks good, foreground now kind of balances with it. Still got a bit more extra little pop in there, looks good. I don't think it needs any dodging or burning or playing around with. I quite like the nice subtle look, so I'll create another pixel layer, Control Alt Shift E. I'm going to duplicate that layer, Control J. I'm going to do a blur on it, which is a Gaussian blur. increase the radius until I lose the fine detail in the photo. Yep, that looks about good. Apply that. Add a brightness and contrast adjustment layer and drag it onto the blur layer. I'll now set the blur layer opacity to 12%. Click the little down arrow just here and you can see the brightness contrast adjustment layer. And I'm going to increase the contrast and then push up the brightness a little. And that's just giving it that really nice autumn glow to the photo, particularly in the highlights, which I really love. Alright, I think we are pretty much there. I'll just merge everything together now. Control-Alt-Shift-E to blend to a final pixel layer. Select all the layers and then right-click on the top and go Merge Selected. We now have our final image, which we will save and take back into DxO PhotoLabs. Okay, so here's our final photo. I really like how this one came out. Using that sort of focal length blending technique to make that sky pop and keep that wide angle look to the foreground. We used some pretty cool lighting techniques to bring everything together. I hope you really enjoyed following along with this one. If you're interested in DxO software, whether it's this program, PhotoLabs 9, or the Nik Collection, which filters which work from this or from Affinity or Photoshop or Lightroom, or some of their other software like FilmPack, I have a discount code to share with you. DxO very kindly contacted me and said if any of my viewers would like a discount off their software, to just use the code Murray Fox on your screen right now. There is a link to their shop in the description below. You will get 15% off any new licenses on any of their programs. Currently, during the Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales, you get 5% off those special prices, which is a really good deal. Highly recommend checking it out if you're interested in these programs. Anyway, I was really excited to edit this photo. I'm going to publish it up on my Facebook page now, and I will show it here in full for you. Thank you again so much for supporting my channel. You guys are all marvelous and wonderful. I've really enjoyed all the comments and feedback. So until next time, stay safe.